Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Cold Hard Truth podcast. I'm Jack Smith.
I'm Shrikar Rajendran.
I'm Anish Gupta.
Anish, welcome back from Ohio.
Yep.
Did you get to see anything Cleveland Browns related?
Yes. Hall of Fame. If you haven't been there, it is so fun. Pro football.
Shout out to Canton.
Yep.
I told Anish, like, in retrospect, he should have done a vlog.
Right as I was,
that would have been cool.
No, I didn't even tell you this. Right as I was going down the steps, you texted that to me. I was
It
like,
would have been pretty awesome.
And I showed my uncle, and he was like, "Yeah, that would have been so fun." There's literally a wall of every team's record since 1920, and that was just so cool. That was like one of the coolest things I saw. And then all the heads, obviously, but.
Now I'm excited to get there at some point, but we've got a pretty action-packed episode for you guys today. No huge, massive topics. We've got a lot of small things to touch on. Talk about Tua Tagovailoa struggling in minicamp, talking about maybe some Browns contractual decisions they're going to have to make at some point, the Madden cover, which received a lot of backlash, and we're going to talk about it, and also the Ravens' new offensive system they might be going with this year, and what's going on with Lamar Jackson. But before we get into any of that, I want to give a big shout out to Carl Nassib. Became the first active NFL player to come out as gay today on the day we're recording this. And just such a courageous move to come out and say that. And a lot of respect, I think, from all three of us for having the courage and being brave enough to come out in this environment that, maybe a lot of people won't be accepting of it, but I know for a fact I'm very accepting of it. And I think it's really cool that he felt comfortable enough to share that with the rest of the world. And so a lot of respect for him. I don't know if you guys want to talk about it as well, but I know I had a lot of respect for him coming out and saying that. So just wanted to send him a big shout out.
No, for sure. It's definitely a courageous move, as you said. There's just like a lot of stuff that like happened today as we're recording this news-wise. Like Carl Nassib came out, which is obviously good for him. Jalen Twyman got shot. Frank Clark and Zaven Collins got arrested. So a lot of stuff like we just can't cover. But we did want to shout out Carl Nassib because, this is a big moment for the NFL. This is a big moment for Carl Nassib too. And we want to applaud him for coming out.
Well, yeah. And then obviously prayers up for Jalen Twyman. Yeah. Promising rookie. It said he's going to make a full recovery. So that's a good sign. Anish, Tua Tagovailoa.
I just wanted to give a quick shout out to, I thought, the good old Carl Nassib. I thought, to do something like that, just such a, bold move. But I think him being confident in himself and doing that, that just shows how much, appreciation and support, the support he was getting right over Twitter by.
Yeah.
I thought that was really cool. And, I believe there was another openly gay player drafted a few years ago.
Mm-hmm.
But to kind of keep that, enter that kind of trend in the NFL atmosphere, I thought was really cool and how accepting it's been. So big move. And, I think it's heading in the right direction with being more openly accepting for gay players in the NFL. So.
Yeah. And if he can be a Kickstarter for other players to be more comfortable with anything, that'll be a very good sign.
Yeah,
but
mental health is also another thing I wanted to also bring.
Hayden Hurst.
I know the NBA has been big
last
on
year. It feels like a lot of people are more comfortable telling their true story. And I think that's a really good sign. And it's really cool to see. Moving into some of the football things we're going to talk about, Anish. Tua Tagovailoa threw 5 interceptions in one practice, I believe, on the first day of Dolphins minicamp. And a lot of people know I'm not a big believer in Tua Tagovailoa. I'm not sure any of us are really like huge, I guess, believers in him. But does this sway you in either direction? Do you think? A lot of people think he might break out. How does this affect your opinion of it? What was your opinion of it going in, and what do you think of his struggles so far in minicamp?
I think the first day was when he really struggled. I think it was either 4 or 5, but I think
it was 5.
Yeah. So I think there were some like monsoon patterns. I think there was like some bad weather.
It was terrible weather. Yeah.
Yeah, it was terrible weather. So, I guess that also kind of explains it. But, it can't fully justify it, right? Because, as much as, there is bad weather, right? Like there's also going to be bad weathers in games. So I think with Tua, there's a lot of people that are up and down on him. I was a fan. I was a fan of him in Alabama. I still believe in him. I think just the way I think he plays, he does remind, like there are some throws that remind me of Drew Brees, and I'm just gonna say it, like, he's had some really accurate throws in the NFL. Like the one to Gesicki always speaks out to me. The one against Kansas City, it was in double coverage. I don't know if you guys remember, but it was in the fourth quarter. That one, I watched that game. That one spoke numbers to me, and also against the Cardinals, that I thought was one of his best games of the year. And, I think a lot of it, people don't realize, I think he was still kind of recovering from that hip surgery. Like, I really don't think he was fully 100%. There were some cuts and moves that he did. I did a breakdown on him a little bit, and there were just some cuts and, moves in the pocket that I just didn't like. And I think it could tell some of it aggravated him, but, with another offseason under this kind of coaching staff. And I think with another offseason with these weapons, right, and getting some new ones like, Will Fuller and Jalen Waddle, those are two speed guys that can really take the top off of defenses. And I think it's going to be great for Tua, but you're right. Minicamp concerns, those are always a thing. Like, it's never been such a huge deal to where someone chokes the starting job away completely. Because if you've been the starter for a while and there's not really a QB competition, you're going to be the starter for week one. But I think this is what I'll say. I think they should play him a little bit more in preseason than you would like for a starter. I think you should get a little bit more preseason time, really get acclimated with some of the weapons that he'll play with. And that's probably my final take. It's nothing too major, but I think he should get extra playing time in the preseason.
You're right. Minicamp concerns are definitely a thing. But if we think back to the summer of 2018, I believe Patrick Mahomes was kind of going through those same struggles. He was throwing picks. He wasn't Patrick Mahomes, the guy that we all know and love as the best quarterback in the NFL. So at the end of the day, it's a practice in June. Like, if Tua Tagovailoa plays well during the season, no one is going to be talking about this. No one really talks about Jimmy G throwing 5 picks before 2019. No one talks about Mahomes anymore. It's obviously a concern, but as Anish said, more preseason games should help, especially with how many times he was benched last season. I think he definitely needs the reps. But overall, I'm not really worried about him throwing 5 picks. And apparently he had 1 dropped as well. Because again, it was also bad weather. So I'm not too worried about Tua. I still believe in him.
It's really funny because I can't tell you guys the number of times where Darnold would throw a interception in practice and I'd get clowned for it. And Anish would make sure that I heard about it.
Oh yeah. I remember I would send him videos, the stuff I would find on Instagram.
And I'm like, I know I've seen it. It's a practice interception. Yeah. And now it's flipped a little bit. I'm not like putting too much stock into the idea that he threw 5 interceptions in one practice. It's going to happen. I'm sure it happens to the best of them. And even if there's not, interceptions are like a very tangible stat, but even if quarterbacks just have a bad day, like it happens to the best of them. I'm sure Tom Brady has bad days, all the time. And a lot of stuff just isn't publicized about some of that stuff. It could be practices on his own where he's just not feeling himself. And so like, I'm not going to put too much stock into that, but I feel like it is a good time to just talk about Tua Tagovailoa because I'm still not a big believer in, maybe it was that hip injury, but that was something that I've talked about since draft, pre-draft process is like, that's a tough injury to like completely come back from. It really is a tough one. And so
I don't even know this from you. Were you a fan of him before the hip injury? Like, did you think he was?
I was a fan, but I still didn't think he was. That was kind of like the line I drew is like, I was still a fan, but he was my 3rd quarterback. Like I still didn't have him
throughout.
Above,
really interesting.
Like I don't think I ever had him above Justin Herbert. And then when Joe Burrow started to pick up steam, he passed both of them. And, I get he had that it factor, coming in for Jalen Hurts, but it was at Alabama. Like he had everything around him. Like you talk about weapons. The one time, he has played well is when he had 4 first-round receivers to throw to. So, I mean, I don't know. I think that there's definitely potential there. I never kind of argued against that potential, but I was always kind of on the, I guess, I don't know. I'm missing on the exact word for it, but I was kind of skeptical that he would reach it. And then the injury happened and I kind of just sold all the stock. Like I'm just really not buying this. And I think that his first season, it only made me feel more that way. And then this, don't want to put too much stock into it, but it does move the needle a little bit even further towards the not buying his breakout year idea.
I think the question just comes, if I'm a Dolphins fan, right? Because team just missed the playoffs, and it was a 17 playoff, and they missed it at 10-6. Like, it was a tough year to break in, right? Next year, a lot of people have the Dolphins in the wild card. I think people mostly have the Bills repeating as AFC East champs.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't say they're Super Bowl contenders, but I think, the championship window is starting to open, right? But if I'm a Dolphins fan, what I want to see from year 2, because I don't think they win the Super Bowl or even get there. I'm not going to rule it out. We've seen some bigger surprises, but I doubt it. But if I'm a Dolphins fan, I want to see enough flashes to where I can see that Tua can uplift this team when he needs to, right? Like when things don't work out and he needs to kind of be great and kind of rally this team, right? That's what I want to, if I'm a Dolphins fan, that's what I want to see. I want to see Tua kind of live up to that, number 5 overall pick, because, with this team around him, he hasn't really been asked to do that because the Dolphins defense has been so great. The receivers right now, at least on paper, look like they can, all 3 of them look like they could potentially go for 1,000. I mean, all 3 of them. And Gesicki is a, borderline top 5 tight end. This offensive line obviously has some questions, but Brian Flores, the coaching question is honestly eradicated. Like he's a great coach. So, for Tua, he hasn't really been asked even last year to take this team when they needed it. The only time it was week 17, and they got blown off by the Bills kind of practice squad. They didn't have many players in. So I think if I'm a Dolphins fan, that's what I want to see. They put the faith in him, right? They took Waddle at 6. They could have taken Fields. They could have taken Mac Jones, but they did not, right? So I think the cards are now in Tua's side. I don't even know how to say that, but like the cards are on his table, I guess. Like it's basically his time to kind of show that he can kind of bring this team up to another step, right? Because there's kind of hierarchy, right? There's playoff contenders, there's Super Bowl contenders, and there's those mediocre teams. I want to see him kind of build them up from playoff to potential Super Bowl contenders. That's what I would say is a successful year for year 2.
I think it's funny because the last time that we all went into a season doubting, like all 3 of us doubting a quarterback and not completely bought in. Do you guys know who I'm talking about?
Actually,
Lamar Jackson 2 years ago before he won an MVP. Yeah. Right. Like, so, I mean, if Tua can take a Lamar Jackson leap, which I don't see, that they are Super Bowl contenders. Like they're immediately Super Bowl contenders. If they get a Pro Bowl caliber year out of Tua, they are Super Bowl contenders. I think, and maybe it's probably too much to ask for Dolphins fans who even believe in him to say that, but if he takes that, like if he just becomes a serviceable average starting quarterback, kind of that 10 to 20, 15 to 20 range, they're playoff for sure. Like I really believe that. And if he takes a step above that, then we can start talking about, AFC Championship game, Super Bowl possibly.
He's got to buy into the Dolphins culture. I think that's what he's got to do.
Yeah.
And it's crazy. We're just talking about it now, and it's made me realize how much this season really just hinges on Tua's development.
Yep.
It's tough to say.
This one specifically, but also long term.
Yeah.
Because if Tua is the answer, then this is going to be a long-term contending team.
And if he isn't the answer this year, like, can they afford with if their window was opening now, can they afford to keep Tua for that third
That's why,
year?
yeah. So that's why it's really, you got to be really careful. And I think Flores cannot be doing this benching and not benching, because you really got to get that full year out of him.
His reps. Yeah.
And, find some way to, at least if he doesn't do well, get some value, because they've got, I believe, 2 picks next year because they traded one of them to Philly. Yeah. So they've got 2 next year. You could trade up and get one of those guys. You could, right? But obviously rookie quarterbacks never really take the team, all the way. But, I would really think about it if I'm the Dolphins, right? Like that, at least they've given themselves options. So while they are believing in him, they've also got a small backup plan. Yeah. And I like what the Dolphins are doing in that regard. But yeah, if I'm Tua, I got to show something in year 2, some sort of flash, right? Because you can't afford a sophomore slump like Baker. I mean, that's just, you can't afford that.
I think a successful year for Tua for me is so they don't have to question whether they take a quarterback in next year's draft. I think that's a successful.
He shows they're the franchise guy.
Yeah, because even like after the sophomore slump, some Browns fans, like including you, Anish, were like, maybe we need to move on from Baker. People like Daniel Jones have played 2 years, and even other people thinking maybe they could have taken a quarterback. Like he just needs to avoid, I think, that situation. If he can avoid that situation, he has a little bit more confidence in him, because this, I think, even though, this offseason, like he said, oh, I've learned the playbook, I've had more confidence. I'm sure on draft day and leading up when he was hearing all the rumors, he thought like maybe his job was in jeopardy. So if he can go into the offseason confident he's got a spot and then build confidence over the offseason instead of like wondering, I think that's what would make it a successful year, in my opinion.
Agreed. Yep.
Just alleviate pressure.
Yeah, exactly. And the Dolphins will do the best they can to alleviate the pressure on him. So
yeah,
let us know what you guys think down in the comment section, what you thought of, the minicamp issue, but also kind of just on a bigger level, what you think about Tua going into this year and maybe what he needs to do. But Streaker, I'll let you start on this next topic, and Anish can go last because he is the Browns fan here. Denzel Ward and Nick Chubb are both free agents for the Browns this year. They have, a decent amount of cap space, I believe just over $20 million. But keep in mind, they have to decide on Baker Mayfield's contract next offseason. So not this one coming up, but next one. And quarterback salaries are only getting higher and higher, and they already take up so much of a team's cap. So really, it seems like the Browns will have to choose this offseason between Nick Chubb or Denzel Ward. If you're the Browns, who do you take if you're faced with a choice?
Super tough, because even though running backs have a short shelf life, Nick Chubb is so key to what the Browns are doing on offense that it's really tough to give up a guy who's pretty much knocking on the door of a top 5 running back. So I'm going to say Denzel Ward just because of previous history. We've seen big contracts get handed out to running backs like Todd Gurley, who was said to be a big part of the offense. We saw it get handed out. Well, who knows how that's going to go, but Aaron Jones,
Christian McCaffrey,
CMC, we'll see how that shakes out, because I think it was justified for CMC, best running back in the game, in my opinion. But I think with Nick Chubb, you have Kareem Hunt still there. And I think he's capable of being a number 1 guy. I think they'll definitely probably pick up someone in the draft. Doesn't have to be first round, but could be second round, third round. But it's such a tough decision to pick between those 2 guys. If they can somehow find a way to bring them both back, which I definitely think is possible, either by way of using a franchise tag on someone and bringing someone in long term. If they can make that happen, obviously you go for it. But if I had the choice between the 2, I would say Denzel Ward. It's tough, though, because you're picking between a cornerstone on defense versus a cornerstone on offense. Which position do you value more? It's very tough.
Yeah, I'll tell you which position I value more, and it's not going to be a surprise to most people, but this one, like, I legitimately had to question it. I know I don't value the running back position, but the Browns do, and Nick Chubb is elite. Like,
no, he's been.
And yeah, the argument is, yes, the running back position is less valuable, and they already have Kareem Hunt there, but really, the Browns' offense works best when Nick Chubb is running the ball. I mean, that's what helped Baker Mayfield. If Nick Chubb wasn't there, I really don't think Baker Mayfield would be where he is right now. But also, you have to make the decision so that you can pay Baker Mayfield, and you have to make the decision. So even if you it's possible that they keep all 3, but then you're completely strapped. And then other contracts start coming up. Like, what if a player breaks out? What if Greedy Williams breaks out? Like, what if Grant Delpit breaks out? What are you going to do there? So I think that you might see a situation where, they extend Denzel Ward this offseason, then they franchise tag Nick Chubb, and then next year when it comes around, it's Chubb and Mayfield, and then that's when you let Chubb go. It is a tough decision, especially and that's a big deal, because I'm normally not a big, proponent of the running back position. I tend to stray away from any running back contracts at all, but that is a tempting one. And Nick Chubb, it's a hard one for them to admit, just, I'm sorry, Nick, we got to let you go. It's a tough one.
They've both said before, they want to be in Cleveland. They both want to stay. So who knows how much that's going to factor into a potential contract. And
I know that they don't think about the fans, but I know fans would definitely be upset if they saw Chubb go instead of Ward, even though it's probably the smarter football decision. Just the uproar that we would probably hear from Browns fans who have come to love Nick Chubb over the past couple of years, it would be tough. But I really think it's a nice decision to have to make. That's what I'll say. They've done a great job developing both these players, and even though Nick Chubb had the injury history in college, I feel like Denzel Ward's the one that's been a little bit more
Yeah.
maybe injury prone in the NFL. So that could even factor in the decision. It's a tough one, I'd say. But if you had to choose, I would say, extend Denzel Ward, maybe franchise tag Nick Chubb this offseason, because they don't really have a lot of holes on the team to fill in free agency. And they also don't have a whole lot of other like in-house free agents to think of. So you may be only looking at 2 more years of Nick Chubb on the Browns. But if I had to choose, I would take Denzel Ward.
So first, let me give some context. Like I think Shrikar mentioned, I was going to open with it. The fact that they want to stay in Cleveland, most Browns fans, like after being in Ohio, I got to talk to a lot of them. Like just the fact that people want to stay there is just so great. Like to hear that. But so regarding these two, because there's 5 guys that I think we need to worry about. Chubb, Ward, Baker. Actually 6, sorry. Chubb, Ward, Baker, Odell, Landry, and Wyatt Teller. Those are the 6. Those are the 6 that we need to worry about. And the thing is, they didn't re-sign Sheldon Richardson because of this. Like they didn't take him back. They tried to for less money, but I think Richardson was hurt, like mentally or like offended by it. But I think the real decision should be Odell and Landry. But the problem is that like the things don't add up because Odell and Landry are it's 2023, not 2022. So that would be a little bit tough. But that's why I've been such an advocate of trading Odell, and it's not because of how bad he is. And the Browns have said they're so happy with how he looks in minicamp, but we say this every year. Like I like Odell was great against Dallas. Like we've seen what he can do on the Browns. Like we've seen how that can uplift him. Like he really carried that team that day. But if I were to say it right, we've drafted receivers 2 years in a row for this scenario that one of them wouldn't come back. And I believe Jarvis makes a little bit more. I think it's 14.3 versus 13.75. So that's not gonna like tip, my cap over. I'm not gonna like flip out if we have to keep Jarvis for that. But I just think Jarvis is a better leader on the team. And it's no disrespect to Odell. It's just I think Jarvis has been there longer. He's been for that whole culture change. It came in the year after they went 0-16. Odell was kind of a flashy move. Jarvis was a real, culture builder. So I think that's where the real decision falls. But yeah, obviously the whole contract decisions with Chubb and Ward have been thrown out there. Between the two, I don't want to make that choice. I know most Browns fans don't. But I would say like, here's what I'll say. Because as I've watched every snap the entire year, and I'd say you're right. Nick Chubb was way more impactful on offense than Kareem Hunt was, because most of our losses, the bad losses, were when Kareem Hunt got more touches and when he was the number 1 back, when Chubb got hurt, right? And when Chubb was in, we had 2 losses, right? The one was the Ravens when we went back and forth. One was the Chiefs. And then the other one was the Jets where we were completely rattled. So I don't really count that as, on Chubb. But I just think that's how much he means to this offense. But also Denzel Ward, right? He is a cornerstone on defense. But keep in mind, we did win the playoff game without him. Like we did. So it's really, really tough. But, if I were to actually pick out of the two, I would actually say Nick Chubb. And I just think because of how impactful he is on offense for Baker and for the team. But again, I just don't think the Browns would have to make that choice if they get rid of Odell. And like, I believe with incentives and all, it's like over 15.75 mil that you could be saving for a guy that really wasn't there when they took off. Like he wasn't there. Like Baker was 20-2 without him. I don't think he needs Odell Beckham. He's got Austin Hooper. He's got Harrison Bryant. He's got David Njoku. He's got, now Anthony Schwartz and Jarvis Landry and Rashard Higgins and DPJ. Like he's got so many guys that could just all break out, and Odell would be limiting so much of that. That is my take. Like, I wanted to come out here and say that because the Browns will have to make a choice between those 2 receivers anyway. So if you just let Odell go early now, he still has some value. What if he has a bad year and his value just completely depreciates? Like, that's what I'm saying. I think that if I'm the Browns, I would really think about doing that. I don't think a lot of teams are fearful of Odell coming back. I don't think that's the problem they're fearing. They're fearing the new additions on defense. That's what makes the Browns that much more, dangerous, because they had the offense last year. Now they're adding to a defense that was very subpar. I think that's why I'm saying Odell really isn't needed. And even the Browns fans I talked to in Ohio, a lot of them agreed with me. I think overall Browns community wants Odell. But I'm just not. I think that's where the real decision lies. I'm sorry I didn't really touch on Chubb and Ward. I love both of those guys. I think because the 2018 class was the one for the Browns. That was the one they hit. They like home run when we took Ward over Chubb. I even questioned not Nick Chubb, Bradley Chubb. When we took Denzel Ward over Bradley Chubb, everyone questioned it, including me. I did as well. But Denzel Ward was a stud his rookie year, and every time he's been on the field, he's been on it by PFF standards, top 5. So you just got to stay healthy. But yeah, you're right. If I want to say this, if it does come down to those two, with the chance of Troy Hill, Greedy Williams, Grant Delpit being there too, just the amount of heads we have on secondary, I think Nick Chubb is a little bit more impactful than a guy like Denzel Ward.
Yeah, I mean, it's a tough decision. Again, like we talked about Tua, let us know down in the comment section. We love to talk football with you guys. Let us know down there if you're on YouTube. The next one, a little bit more lighthearted. The Madden cover was released, and so they said it was going to be 2 GOATs, and it was Mahomes and Brady. So they're already considering Mahomes to be a GOAT. And, we can talk about how the cover looked terrible, how, the MVP edition doesn't even have the MVP on it. We could talk about, maybe they were planning on having Rodgers and now they're not, or maybe they plan on having another quarterback who's messed up this offseason. And so we could talk about all those things, or, how the graphics looked like a 5th grader made it. But really the main thing we want to focus on, they said Mahomes is already a GOAT. Do you believe that? Like, Shrikar, is Mahomes already a GOAT in your eyes after just a couple seasons in the NFL?
No, he's not a GOAT. But as soon as I saw the trailer, which had the 2 GOATs on it, I immediately concluded it was Brady and Mahomes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
In my personal opinion, I feel like the cover should have been Derrick Henry because, for one, think about it. It's Madden 22, and you have one of the league's top players wearing 22. And Derrick Henry just came off an amazing season. We would get to see a fresh face on the cover.
Yeah.
But no, instead, Madden chooses to use a pretty much.
They just had them too.
They
both
just
of them were
had
just
2
on different covers.
Yeah.
And if you're gonna do 2 GOATs, go with Tom Brady and Aaron Donald. How cool would that have been? Kind of like how they had Polamalu and Fitzgerald that one year.
Yeah, I would have, but I thought so they could have done the Fitzgerald Polamalu graphic with Brady and Mahomes. I thought that would have been at least better.
Yeah, right? What is that pose?
Yeah, I thought that was a little bit weird.
It was just a picture.
And even then, to my Derrick Henry point, if you had him like stiff arming someone on the cover, that would be so cool.
I think it was Norman, right, that he pushed to the ground.
Yeah, just throw Josh Norman on the cover.
That would look way better than Brady and Mahomes looking like they're about to drop the best rap album of 2021. Like, bro, that's trash. Like that doesn't fire me up to play Madden 22. But
and they're trying to say like, this is Madden, like you've never seen it before. Like, no, we saw these 2 on the cover.
Same thing.
Literally 2 and 3 years ago.
It's the same thing, and it's going to be a roster update. Like once again,
are you trying to Madden curse the 2 best quarterbacks? Like, are you trying? Like, seriously? I mean, Brady didn't win the Super Bowl the year he was on the cover, and
Mahomes got hurt.
Mahomes broke it. Yeah, Mahomes is the only one that's broken it. And again, so the whole Mahomes is a GOAT question. I think he's had the best 3-year start in NFL history, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you could say Brady because he had 2 rings and Mahomes had 1, but Mahomes has the MVP. So, you could argue it. I don't know. But I would say he has, I think in terms of regular season and postseason, I think he had no quarterback has ever come in and just lit up the league like this. So I get where they're coming from because they do want a fresh face. Brady is 43 and it's pretty inevitable he's going to retire soon. And I don't know when. I mean, this guy is just so incredibly great that you just don't know, but it is inevitable. Okay. Like as football fans, it is. Okay. It pains me because I love Tom Brady, but they need a new face. And, as soon as Peyton Manning retired, he really kind of didn't show his face much. Like we didn't really know much about him, and he was the face of the NFL for quite some time. So when Brady retires, it's hard to see what he would be like, right? Without it. So I think weird cover, and also big move to say Mahomes is the GOAT. I think that just highlights that he's going to be the next face of the NFL. He already kind of is.
Yeah.
But yeah, obviously they didn't want to play their cards with Aaron Rodgers. We've seen covers mess up, right? Antonio Brown, Madden 19 with the whole Raiders saga, and then
Brett Favre.
Yeah, Brett Favre, but also we've seen with 2K, right? Kyrie Irving, 2K18. So we've seen cover athletes that have had these offseason dramas. You want to tend to stay away from just because you don't know what's going to happen. So I get them kind of doing that. But yeah, I thought Derrick Henry, your idea, Shrikar, would have been amazing. I thought that would have been
would have looked so sick.
Fresh face.
And Aaron Donald still hasn't been on a cover.
That's crazy.
You could have done Derrick Henry and Aaron Donald.
Henry and Donald.
That would have been really cool.
Yeah, offense to defense. That
And
would
the Rams play the
perfect.
Titans this year. That could have been really cool.
Yeah, and if you're going with the two goats and you don't do the other thing, like MLB The Show had Fernando Tatis and they brought Jackie Robinson on an alternate cover. Like
Wow.
you can have a legend cover, the current cover, and then a cover with both of them. And you pick,
Exactly.
I don't know, you pick Brady and Manning. You pick Brady and Breeze because he just retired. You like, I don't know. It was kind of a stupid way they do it. So my proposal to you guys that are all listening or watching this is don't buy Madden. And then anytime you were gonna, spend playing Madden, just come listen to some episodes.
Madden 22. Madden 22 is still gonna sell.
Episodes. Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Exactly.
It's still gonna
listen
sell.
To some episodes, watch some videos. Just don't buy it.
Yeah, unfortunately, I'm gonna be saying this now how bad it is, but I'm probably gonna still pay the $60.
I'm still gonna buy it.
You guys can hold me to it. I said I wasn't gonna buy it last year, and I did. I will not touch it this year.
All right,
we have it on tape.
I'm not gonna do it.
All right.
We have it on tape. There you go.
I think we need a cold hard truth NFL or Madden cover though.
Yeah. Oh, imagine if we did that. That would be so cool. All right. You know what? If someone comments that they would
fire.
Like it, we'll do it. Well,
that would be kind of cool. That would be really cool.
Yeah.
Moving on. Last topic of the day. The Ravens have said that they're going to have a different offensive system this year under Greg Roman, less dependent on the read option. I know, Sugar, you said a little bit more dependent on the play action pass. Is this smart? I want Anish, you can start us off. Sure. Do you think this is a smart move? What do you think of the changes they're going to make and for Lamar, for the receivers on the team, for just this overall kind of overhaul almost of an offense that, has been able to run the ball really well over the last couple of years, but the pass has been a little bit limited. What do you think about this move?
I mean, really well is honestly an understatement. They are insane. They are the best rushing team. I think the last 2 years they've been spectacular. I think they've got guys that can do it, and it's not even talent. It's not even that they're insanely talented. It's just a system that they've been in, right? Gus Edwards, J.K. Dobbins, right? All these names that they wouldn't pop out to you. Mark Ingram, right? Like they wouldn't pop out to you, but given in this system, they've really excelled. And with Lamar too, right? It's so tough because you've seen in the playoffs where it just hasn't worked, right? If you're a run first team and you're in the cold, you are supposed to put up more than 3 points. You are supposed to put up more than 3 points at Buffalo. That's how it works. You're supposed to win time in possession. You're supposed to take the time away from the other team. You're supposed to chew up clock, right? That's how it should work. And it didn't, because I think the problem is that you rely on one play for Lamar to click through the air, right? Rather than 2 or 3 or, short passing down. I don't see them do much off that. They don't run I would like to see them run more 12 personnel. And for those who don't know what that is, that's more bunch sets with receivers, right? Because what that does is that creates mismatches with defensive backs. And I know I've said on tape that Hollywood Brown hasn't been able to beat one-on-ones, and I still buy that. But what if Rashad Bateman can? Yeah. Right? What if Sammy Watkins can? Yeah. They have the weapons now that could do that. I don't know if Hollywood Brown could. That's why I would say you can put him in that bunch set and he can really excel, right? Off a deep drag or even a vertical route or even a wheel. If you put him in a bunch set, I think you'd be spectacular because of how quick he is. So I think the whole 12 personnel would be a really interesting thing for Greg Roman to add. And hopefully I explained it a little bit for football fans out there. I explained it in my Devonta Smith vid a lot more with Nick Sirianni, but I think Greg Roman could easily adopt that system. But yeah, I think back to what I was saying, when teams really focus in on what they can do with the read option, it's easy. It's not easy, but easy for you to have swingers on the outside, plug the B gap. It's not that hard, right? Use Mike Lime. I know I'm saying that as if I could do it, but it becomes a little bit easier to figure out if they're kind of doing the same thing with 3 running backs or even 2. And for Lamar Jackson, if you do this, right, increase the amount of passing down, open up the playbook, I think it allows his arm to really develop more because he's still really young. So that's my take.
And Lamar has openly said he wants to put more emphasis on taking deep shots this year. A lot of people in the NFL are still questioning Lamar's arm. So hopefully he can put those doubts to rest. But I do like the change in the offensive system because what they're running right now works in the regular season, and in the playoffs, it just completely shuts down. So I think being less dependent on one certain type of play, like Anish said, will actually help Lamar. And I do like to see them go with a more traditional play action pass sort of scheme. So I think it'll end up working good for Lamar. It's just
quick thing. They do run play action off it. The problem is is that
Yeah.
I think they're too inconsistent with it, and I think they rely on like one shot, and that's
No,
what
I think but I think they're gonna lean more on play action now. Read
but
option.
I think
In general,
less people in the backfield. That's my thing. That's
exactly. In general, we're just gonna see less option plays. But really, that was kind of Lamar's bread and butter. So that kind of worries me a little bit, kind of moving away from that. But he's confident in himself. He's confident that he can get over that hump. And if he wants to erase any doubts of him having an arm, like this is the perfect opportunity. It's this season where he can really prove himself. So I'm excited to see what Lamar does in this new offensive system. And shout out to Greg Roman for recognizing that, the system probably needs a change.
Yeah, I know a lot of Ravens fans and just people around the NFL not very happy with Greg Roman. And I think that this is adaptation. The thing that I love the Seahawks, I love Pete Carroll. This is the one thing that I say for them is they're always no, we need to double down on running the ball when they're realizing running the ball it's not winning you playoff games. So adapt. And I think that's what the Ravens are doing. It's easy to say that the option that you won a game, just double down on that. And then maybe you'll win 2 playoff games. But if Lamar Jackson didn't break off that really long run in the playoff game, I don't think they win. I really don't. And I think
against
that was
Tennessee?
Against Tennessee.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
If he doesn't take that to the house.
Second quarter was when the running kind of connected. That was their quarter, but yeah, you're right.
But even you saw Tennessee in that game, their counterparts also just tried to run the ball to win a playoff game, and it didn't work. The Seahawks have tried to do it. Sometimes it does work, but it works when the passing teams run the ball. When the Chiefs against the Niners, they were able to run the ball pretty effectively. The Bucs were able to run the ball pretty effectively. It really happens when passing teams run the ball. And so I think that the Ravens are adapting, and I really like to see that. And I think that this is where Lamar Jackson will finally be able to prove to all those people who don't think that he's able to throw. They still say he can't throw. He gets to prove it. He gets to prove he's more than just a read option quarterback. And obviously he's confident in himself. I think I'm confident that he'll be able to make that change. And I do think that this will make them, more of a dangerous team. Maybe they'll win less regular season games. Maybe it won't click immediately, but I really do think in the long run, it'll be more effective. And we want to know what you guys think. If you're on YouTube, down in the comments, you guys can reach out to us on Twitter or our Instagram and let us know what you thought of anything.
I want to say that. All right.
What do you say?
Some more 2 receiver sets.
More 2 receiver sets for sure.
Yeah.
And they've got the tight ends for it too. They can make it work for sure. But anyways, we hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you're on YouTube, please consider hitting the like button, hit the subscribe button, the notification bell, and leave a comment. If you're on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, you can follow the show, leave a 5-star review. If you really enjoyed it, we'd appreciate it a lot. But thank you guys so much for listening. We've been the Cold Hard Truth Podcast, and we will see you next time.